I almost did it again. Okay, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of Ask the King for November 7th, 2013. Let's jump right back into the questions because we got a ton to answer, okay? All right, next question is from Malbian. And Malbian asks, hey, Phil, do you think it's worth it getting a PS3 at this time, or should I wait for the PS4? What do you think? All right. Interesting question, Malbian. Well, the first thing you want to do is look at the price point, all right? PS3, probably I would think, in the next couple months, might have a price drop. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but the way I see it, if PS4 is only $400, PS3 cannot retain a 300. I think even now you can get a model for like 250. Can't retain that price point, all right? It's probably going to have to drop in price as demand for the new system goes up, demand for the old system will go down. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would you want a PS3? Well, let's face it. Think of some console or exclusive games that have come out this year for PS3, such as The Last of Us, such as Beyond Two Souls. Quite good games. Games that a lot of people would probably enjoy, and they're console exclusives. You need a PS3 to play these games, all right? But outside of that, what else is exclusive to a PS3 that you would need? And you have to think about this. Well, there are some games that will be current gen that will not be next gen. For example, Dark Souls 2. It's coming out on PS3, I believe also on Xbox 360, but they haven't announced it for next gen yet. So if that's the case, and you want to be sure that you have a platform to play those kind of games on, all right, then you need to get a previous gen console, or I guess we'd say current gen until the next gen comes out, then we'll be calling that current gen. The PS3 is a Blu-ray player. So a lot of people who said, oh, I'm buying a PS3 to get a Blu-ray player. Well, the PS4 is also a Blu-ray player. So really, in that regard, since they can both do it, it's not a selling point for either one. The question undoubtedly is going to come down to this. Games. Do you feel that there's enough console exclusives and or games coming out for the current gen of consoles in the next year that you want to buy a current gen console? Or are you looking at the game lineups for the next gen? You say, well, man, I want Infamous Second Son is coming out, and there's a couple other great console exclusives coming out in the long run for PS4. That's what I'm going to want. Then you should go for the PS4. So it really depends on what you're looking at. You know, there's not one definitive answer here. Yeah, one's better than the other. No. You want to go with the console that's going to have the best games for you. And so you have to look at the lineups that right now as they are and say which is the better lineup and go for that console. Okay? Next question is from CJP Acking. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I apologize. His question is, hey, Phil, I was wondering what you and John Rambo do for your setup when you guys do co-op gameplay that requires two separate discs, meaning John needs his own copy of the game and I need my own copy of the game. It's not a split-screen game. Okay? And where Rambo also needs to be connected to Xbox Live like we did recently to do Suicide Kings and Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm curious because I don't play many games in co-op, and if at all, and I can't really see how a setup like that would work. Also, does this setup have to be adapted for direct capture? Well, the way that we do it, and I know we actually haven't done a video of like behind the scenes of that stuff in a long time, so you guys probably have not seen that setup in quite some time. The way it works is that I have my setup here on the couch. So I have my console, my Xbox, let's say, it's connected to my TV, it's connected to my capture device, my own headphones that I have here for myself, and we have a microphone. This microphone. Okay? This microphone sits right here on the table. Usually when John's here, I put it a little bit near the edge of the table. And the reason I do that is because to the side of me, I have a chair, a nice cushy brown chair in the corner here. We've got a large storage ottoman on which John will put his console. He puts a separate monitor. The game, he'll put it in the console. We'll hook up that Xbox to the monitor, and then that Xbox will run to my modem, okay? And John will have his own set of headphones that connects to that setup. So John has his own thing going on. He's got his own headphones, his own console, everything separate from me, which I have set up right here. And then both of those consoles are hooked into my modem. Now you may think, oh, that's a problem. It's really not, as long as you set the consoles to not try to do the same IP address. What that means is the same basically location in your router going to the internet. As long as you set them to manually be two different addresses, you're perfectly fine. You can have two different Xbox Live accounts set up to run at the same time. So that's how we do it. And so John has his own thing going on. I have my own thing going on. Now, one thing that we have to do when we're doing co-op commentary, since we want to hear each other, is let's say I have these headphones on. What I kind of do, and they're a little caught up right now. Oh, great. Here we go. What I kind of do, I'll have them on, but I'll maybe tilt the headphone to one to the side. So maybe I have this ear fully on and this ear's kind of half on. So I can hear John's commentary and we can respond to each other as we're playing. So it is kind of an elaborate setup. Previously, it was a little bit easier than that. It was still the same setup, okay? But it was me with my camera here on my table, and the camera would automatically pick up the audio from both of us. We didn't have to worry about a microphone and microphone positioning and headphones or anything like that. It has become a little bit more complicated since we instituted the direct capture, but we're making it work for now, okay? All right, next question. Dear DSP, I'm curious how you got so good at public speaking, and what did you do so you don't get rusty at it? Like, was it writing? Was it repeated reading, etc.? What I'd like to know... No, what I like about... Sorry, I'm reading this completely wrong. What I like about your communication skills is that while often I will disagree with what you have to say, your delivery and skills at it are so great that, you know, I want to hear your opinion, even if it's an opinion that I don't agree with. You also can do this stuff on a first take, too, which is amazing. The reason I ask is I'm a very poor public speaker myself. I'm doing more verbal communication these days and finding that I say or I pause a lot, and I can't really get into the details I'd like to. It's one trait that I want to improve upon with myself. Thanks in advance. And that question was from Kev Factor. Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that people say that I'm a good public speaker. And the thing is, unlike a lot of other YouTubers or people on the internet, if you notice in my videos, I'm not, a jump cut over here and a jump cut over here and a jump cut. Everything I do is one take and it's ongoing. Because I have kind of really worked hard on the method of continuing a thought and thinking things through while I talk it out. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people, they can read a speech, but they can't talk and just relay their feelings on the fly. They get nervous. And this is kind of what Kev Factor's saying. If I try to do something like that, I get nervous or I start stuttering, I start saying a lot. Well, you might notice this. I mean, some people have noticed this, some people haven't. I have my own ums. First of all, I say I do. I say quite a bit. I also say basically a lot. I know I say basically a lot, and a lot of people have called me out on that, saying, why do you say that so much? I just said, look at that. The reason you say those words, they're filler words. They're time killers, so that as you're thinking out the thought in your head that you want to say next, it gives you a little bit of extra time to complete the thought. You get better at it in time. And I started my public speaking experience when I was in grammar school. There were actually public speaking contests where you would write a speech about a historical figure, and then you would give the speech in front of everyone. And I didn't win, but I think I ended up getting like second or third place at one of them or something like that. And it gave me experience of talking in front of people and not being nervous. Then later on, as I got into video games, now I'm playing games in an arcade in front of a public people. You know, you can't be nervous. You have to play an arcade game in front of everyone. It's kind of like you have to have the balls to do it. If you lose, you got to take your criticism. Later on, I went to the competitive Street Fighter community. And again, you're in a tournament setting. You may be on the stage. You may be in front of a public audience, and you have to perform. And if you don't, you have to be able to take the heat for it. And then it was just a natural progression when I went and got an office job. I have to do a presentation, or I have to lead an event, maybe a continuous improvement event. You're in front of people. You're under the heat. But I just got better at it. In every aspect of my life seems to have had some kind of a public thing where I had to be in front of the people in the public and not be shy, but be more outgoing and kind of be able to handle it. And so when I finally started doing stuff for YouTube, it was a natural transition of me just, okay, I've been doing this all along. Now I'm just going to be this is actually easier talking to a camera rather than talking to people. It's actually, I would say, a little bit more nerve-wracking when I'm at a convention and I've got a convention room full of people here to see me and I have to talk directly to them. That's more difficult than just talking to a camera, because look, I'm just looking at a lens now. I'm not looking at all these people who are actively looking for maybe something from me. All right? So it comes in time. What I would say, I don't know how old Kev Factor you are, but if you can, in school, have the possibility of maybe doing some of these oratory things, do it. if you're in a job where maybe you can have the ability to make, oh, there's something going on, an event, I want to do a presentation. You want to give yourself this kind of practice. That's how I did it. It was just through everyday things in my job or my work or my school that allowed me to finally get the ability to do this kind of stuff. And now, like I said, this is the ultimate version of it because I'm doing all this on the fly. What I'm giving you right now is not a predetermined answer that I wrote down on a piece of paper and I'm writing this as a speech or anything like that. This is actually just me thinking of this on the fly and giving you this answer. And that's the ultimate, the penultimate of how you can do it. And it's funny because you have somebody like the president even doesn't do that. The president gives a speech that he wrote. I talk from the heart on the fly. I really feel that's the hardest thing that you can possibly do. No jump cuts, because that's the thing. These YouTubers, they're so popular. Look, there's a jump cut every 5 seconds. You want to know why? Because it's a fucking scripted video, and they suck. They probably fuck up every 5 seconds, so they take the best cuts of everything and splice them together to make it look like a fast-moving jump cut video. Those people don't actually have talent. It's the people who can do this, who can talk to you nonstop that have the talent, but unfortunately, the fad is jump cuts. Ugh, I have ADD, I like jump cuts, and unfortunately, that's what's popular. Whatever. Okay, next question is a long one. It's, by the way, this is the question's from Industrial Gamer, but Industrial Gamer is not the only person who asked this question. There were actually several people who asked similar questions, but I felt that Industrial Gamer kind of worded the question the best. That's why I'm going to use his question as the one that I read in the show, okay? Excuse me. All right, so Industrial Gamer asks, I am curious to know your personal stance on the resolution of next-gen titles. This seems to be one of the biggest controversies between the two platforms, sparking many news stories and worried gamers. Most people have confirmed that Xbox One's exclusive titles are natively only 720p and in some cases 900p. In the case of Rise is going to be 900p, Killer Instinct will be 720p. And the only 1080p launch title that's going to be out for Xbox One is Forza 5. Sony's first-party titles, on the other hand, are all running natively at 1080p resolution. Killzone, Infamous, etc. Some third-party games like Call of Duty Ghosts are 1080p on PS4, but on Xbox One, it's unknown, and the developers are refusing to comment, almost like they know that it's not going to run at that resolution. They don't want to reveal it. My question is this. Do you think that the resolution and graphical fidelity in games between two consoles, no matter how slight, will ultimately boil down to segregation of one particular audience? Like the PS3 this generation often gotten the worst ports of cross-platform games. What is your personal preference? Can you see yourself citing to one platform for native resolution and slightly, but probably not that it's noticeable, but it is better graphics, okay? Now, apparently, yeah, it is coming out. Now, here we are, less than 2 weeks until the launch of these new consoles, and the information is coming out about resolutions of games and, what's going to happen. Here's what I have to say, and I really have to say this. I'm not trying to defend either console in this statement, all right? I just want you to understand something, though. Just because there's a number on a resolution, it doesn't mean that it's going to run well. So, bear with me. Sure, we know that some games are going to run at 1080p. Do you know what frame rate those games are going to run at? Sure, they may tell you it's supposed to run at 60 frames or 30 frames per second. Can you confirm that? Because the thing is, I've had history with PC gaming. And I know the higher resolution you go, the more detail you add, the less frame rate you typically get. So sure, you want to pump up the graphics to a high resolution, but there's no guarantee that those games are going to run well. And the other thing we have to realize, this is the first wave of games for these consoles. This is the very first time that console developers are making games for these consoles. Just look at the change in the quality and graphics from when Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 first launched versus some of the photorealistic visuals we've gotten in the past few years with games like Beyond Two Souls and The Last of Us. Look at that. Look at how crazy that looks compared to what we started with. So what you have to realize, especially when you're going into a new console generation, your number is just a number. You may not, just because it's running, it's going to run at 1080p on PS4, 720p on Xbox One, but you really don't know what that'll look like till you play it. You have to look at it with your eye and say, what if it runs at full 60 frames per second on Xbox One, but only 30 frames per second on PS4 because it has the higher resolution? So now you got to decide what's better, more detail in the graphics or more frames of animation per second? And everyone's going to have a different answer. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I haven't played either console. Maybe the 1080p games will run at 60 frames per second. Then good on Sony. You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say for you is this. The consoles aren't out yet. We haven't played the games yet. Don't try to make a harsh judgment until they're out and we know exactly what we're getting. The reason you're seeing all these articles appear right now is because the new consoles is the hype for this year. It's what everyone's talking about, so they're trying to find something to write about. Really, no one knows what's going to happen until those fucking games are out, so just ignore it. It's fluff. It's a fluff story just to fill space until the consoles come out, and people are only giving it credence because it's hype right now. The consoles are about to come out. Wait a couple weeks, then when we actually have played all the games, then let's actually sit down and talk about graphics and who's better and what's what. Okay? Okay. Next question is from Black Ice. And Black Ice asks the following. He says, hey, hi Phil, I've been a fan since way back when you played Dead Space and you made that video called Scary as Hell. Way back in 2008. I've always had this question, and really it's pertinent at this moment, so I'll ask it. I remember that the Friend Request Ridicule videos that you did, you eventually stopped doing those because you felt that, although it was, sorry, I'm reading it wrong, I'm butchering this, you eventually stopped doing them because you felt that it was wrong to do to the fans who supported you. So it was wrong to make fun of the fans who were supporting me, okay? But now that you don't do anything like that anymore, and you actually try as hard as you can to be good to your fans, you're treated like shit. When you did things to make fun of your fans and not really respect them in those videos like Friend Request Ridicule, and those times that you laughed at your fans and not with them, you were like loved. So what gives? What do you think happened? What do you think has changed since when you started and now? A lot of stuff. And the first thing you have to realize is that I've evolved as a person since I started on YouTube. A lot of people who probably have watched me over the years have evolved as people. Think about it. If you've been watching me since 2008, that's 5 years, man. That's 5 years of your life you've been following someone on the internet. That's a significant investment in time. How many people can say that they watched 5 seasons of a television show? You know what I mean? It's a lot. And I completely understand that. And, the DSP of the past, that guy who treated everything as a joke, didn't take anything seriously. Oh, look, I got friend requests on my Xbox even though I told people not to do it. Let's read these stupid little kids' messages and make fun of them. You know what I mean? And make fun of them and laugh at them and ridicule them. Is a different mentality than what I would do today. And it's absolutely hilarious. I agree that today, when I've stopped doing that kind of stuff, I don't really make fun of people anymore, all right? I don't really call people out anymore. In fact, it was a rare occurrence that earlier this year I did call out one particular person for the slander that he had been making about me and still makes to this day. It's rare that I do that. I prefer to focus on my work, to focus on the positive, and not to do negative shit like that, because I understand that when I did it, it was because it was new to the internet. It was a new experience for me. I did it. It was funny, but it might hurt someone's feelings. It might be taking stuff the wrong way. Some of those people might have been younger kids who didn't read that I don't accept friend requests, all right? Or maybe they're just trying to be nice and they just don't know how to formulate a sentence. And it was mean. It was actually mean-spirited of me to do some of the stuff that I did in the past. And, what it is, I think a lot of people also get this misconstrue, I'm the king of hate. Oh, that's because he hates on everyone. No. That's not where I got the name from. I've now explained so many damn times. It's because people seem to find a way to hate me, and I take that hate and I turn it around into fuel for me to keep going. It's happened in the Street Fighter community. Now it's happening on YouTube, and it's not going to stop me. You know what I mean? But I've grown and I've changed since getting a phone call. I don't know who it's from. Actually, it kind of looks like it's a phone call from GameStop. I wonder if they're going to talk to me about the PS4 launch. But anyway, this has basically been an evolution for me. Since I started on the internet, I was just dicking around. Then I started taking it a little bit more seriously. Then I started doing it for a job, and these things evolve over time, okay? And so, undoubtedly, as a person, I'm going to evolve over time. Originally, I was kind of a really cynical, mean-spirited dick. Today I'm not anymore. And that's why it's so funny that today, out of all the times that I've been on YouTube, today I have more people who say that I am a bad person than before, when I actually was doing things that were mean-spirited and bad, in my opinion. So it's hilarious because, you know, if you see what I put out today, the content I put out today is so different from the content I used to put out. And the fact that people can try to say that, it's just factually wrong. So that's why I find it funny that these idiots are trying to flip it. And again, when you look at the black and white, when you look at the facts, you know that it's bullshit. No, I'm not scamming my fans. I'm not hugely mean-spirited to my fans. You know, when do I do this? When do I just sit and chat and I put my feet up like this and I say, let's make fun of people. Oh, look, this guy's name is stupid. Ban him. Oh, look, this guy I don't really like. Ban him. Oh, this guy's a fucking asshole. Ban. You know, when do I do this? I don't. I'm focusing on putting out Ask the King, answering your questions. If I didn't care about the fans, why would I even do Ask the King? You know what I mean? So it's just preposterous, the shit that people say just to get noticed, just to get views, and just for their own popularity and for this. Because they want to make money. So let's hate on someone who's known as the king of hate. It seems like there's a bandwagon mentality. Let's do it. And that's what's happening right now. And, you know, there's nothing I can really do to prevent against it. Bottom line is I've made positive changes in my life over the past several years. I've stopped doing a lot of the negative stuff and mean-spirited stuff that I used to do. And for anyone to say these preposterous things about me, like, it's just so off base. From anyone who's informed, for anyone who's in the know, you know how stupid it is. Okay, next question is from Calm Before the Storm. Okay, and his question is, hey Phil, I heard that you have bought and played through Pokemon X and Y. Actually, it's Pokemon Y that I have. I was really surprised when I heard this, and I remember that you said that you probably would not be playing it. I wanted your thoughts on the game. Did you enjoy it? What did you think of all the new Pokemon? The reason why I ask is because the Pokemon series is by far my favorite video game series of all time, and it would be cool to know your opinion on the game. Also, will you do a review of the game? Good question. Okay. So yes, I have actually played through and completed. I beat it about a week ago, I believe. Pokemon Y. Why did I get the game? Well, a couple reasons. First of all, I haven't played my Nintendo 3DS in a while, and I was looking for a new game. And my girlfriend was the same. She hasn't played her 3DS in a while. And so we went to the store and we said, oh shit, this came out. And we realized that if we each got it, that we could potentially trade Pokemon with each other and do stuff in the game with each other. In fact, when she comes and visits me in December, we'll probably try to do maybe some Pokemon battles and stuff. So I got Y, and she actually got X. And I played through it, and what I have to say is this. The game is exactly what I expected it to be, because the Pokemon series has literally not evolved since its inception. It's the same premise. You're a Pokemon trainer, you're going to go out and catch Pokemon, you're going to do Pokemon battles against other trainers, but you're also going to do random encounter battles with single Pokemon. You have a chance to catch the Pokemon. If you catch them, you train them, you can level them up. You're also going to be looking around in dungeons and hidden areas for rare items, which you can add abilities to your Pokemon to either have them have like special abilities in combat and stuff like that, or you're going to find rare items to heal them or accentuate them in battle. The Pokemon will evolve. There's some special situations where you can have them evolve, and there's going to be rare Pokemon that you're going to be able to find in the game. And you're going to travel all around the world, going from location to location, from gym to gym, until you beat a certain amount of gym leaders, and you get their badges, which then lets you go to the Pokemon League. You win the Pokemon League, and that's the end of the game. Now, the one cool thing that I liked about Pokemon Y is that there is a side plot about the game that has nothing to do with the Pokemon League at all, and it is time-consuming, and it's an interesting side plot. But outside of that, this game has not changed since the first ones, Pokemon Blue and Red. It's the same game. The only difference is it has better graphics and improved controls and a few tweaks here or there. But it's pretty much the same exact premise. I was able to beat this game with zero problems. I didn't get stuck. I didn't, I can't win this battle, because I remembered everything from when I played Pokemon in the 90s. I applied it here, and I just basically ripped through the fucking game and whooped its ass. So it was fun, it was interesting, but it's the same game. And I mean, if you say that Pokemon's your favorite series, I can understand that, but how you could have put up with these games for so long, this is like Call of Duty. Every year it's the same thing. This is the same game. So I don't know how people can say that it's so much different. The only thing that I thought was cool is the online implementation. So now you can trade with people online if you want to. And you can actually battle people online as well. That's kind of unique. That's different. But besides that, it's the same game. So I enjoyed it, but don't look for any kind of changes or innovation. If you know Pokemon, you know what this game is. It is what it is. And that's really all I have to say about it. There's really not much to even review. Now, I do want to say this before we get to the next question. There's a person named Private Joker who actually asked me 4 interesting questions regarding fighting games and my history in fighting games. In particular, he asked me about a certain year and what I did that year to participate in tournaments and train for EVO, why I finally stopped going to EVO. Basically, a lot of pertinent, interesting questions regarding fighting games. I want to tell Private Joker, if you're watching, I've actually saved those 4 questions. I'm going to use those 4 questions as a back in the day segment for a future episode of Hate Live, my ongoing podcast. It's that good. Your questions were that good and that informed that I really feel I could take your 4 questions and turn it into an interesting back in the day segment talking about my days as a tournament competitor in Street Fighter, and that will be at a future podcast. So we're not answering those today on Ask the King. That's going to be on a future podcast. And thank you, Private Joker, for those questions. You basically wrote a segment for me, so thanks. Okay. Next question is from Husky the Geek. And Husky the Geek asks, I've been a fan of yours since the Street Fighter 4 days. Since then, I've noticed that you've always had a fondness for comic book related merchandise, and I've witnessed some of your comics knowledge in your playthroughs. I actually work at a comic book store in California, so I want to know if you were ever a dedicated weekly reader, and if so, why you fell out of it. From various acquisition videos, I see you've continued to pick up trade paperbacks and such from time to time, but why not try weekly comic books again? In all honesty, Scott Snyder's current run on Batman is top tier, and I really think that you would enjoy it. Well, that is absolutely true. I would say from the early 1990s until even the mid-90s, I was a very, very big comic book fan. I was heavily into X-Men, and when I say X-Men, I mean every X-Men. They had Uncanny X-Men, the new X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor. I was into all those comic books. For a while, I was into Spider-Man, so I was reading all the Spider-Man comics. Then for a while, I was into Batman during the whole the crippling of Batman, the whole Nightfall plot line, and then the death of Superman. I was into that stuff. And then subsequently, that led me into a new generation of comics when Image Comics launched. I was into Spawn and Gen 13 and those kind of comic books. So, yes, there was a period of time when I was heavily into comics, and it was a fad. It was the thing. At that period of time, there was this big boom in comics because it became realized that some of the classic comics, like X-Men #1, was selling for like $5,000. So everyone was like, holy shit, comics are worth money. And unfortunately what happened, this is what happens whenever something comes about just the money, they started mass producing comics more than ever before because there was more demand, and comics became literally worthless. They were very valued for about 5 years, and then by the end of the 90s, literally in the beginning of the 2000s, the comic book market tanked, and everything that people had they thought was worth money became worthless. I remember at one point, I had Spawn issues 1 through 20, and to sell Spawn issues 1 through 20 in the 90s, you could make like $1,000. Now, you probably make $4 because no one cares anymore. What ended up happening is the digital age happened. Everything became digitized. No one wanted to keep up with these paper books anymore on a weekly basis. It just became too much clutter for a lot of people, and paper comics fell out of the limelight. And it's kind of funny because when you think about it, right now you would think that with all the comic book movies coming out, the Avengers and Iron Man and the Batman Begins and new Man of Steel, with all these comic book movies coming out, you would think that comics would be at an all-time high readership-wise. In reality, they're actually at a low. People have actually adopted to these mainstream big screen versions of the characters, and they're not reading comics anymore. Really, comic sales have become a digital thing where you can buy on a monthly basis. You could buy the comic digitally. You don't even go to the comic store anymore. So, for Husky the Geek, it's a combination of factors led to me stop reading comics. The first being, comics basically the fad ended. When the fad ended, a lot of the comic book stores in this area closed down. I remember just less than a mile away, there used to be a comic book store that I used to go to. At my local mall, there was a huge comic book store. Then there was a comic book store inside of FYE, and it all went away. They phased it all out when comic books started to die out. So that's number one. Number two, I got, as I said, and I said this a lot of times, I'll say it, I just became so ingrained in Street Fighter that Street Fighter became my hobby and my focus solely. I stopped playing console video games, except for Street Fighter. I stopped reading comic books. So it was just Street Fighter, Street Fighter, Street Fighter for me. And when that happened, it took up all my free time, and I didn't have time for anything else. So really, Street Fighter kind of permeated my free time, and that's why I stopped reading comics, and I actually gave them all away to someone who then put them in a basement. The basement flooded, and they all got destroyed. So probably about $5,000 worth of money spent on comics destroyed, and I don't own any comics anymore. Will I ever read new comics? Probably not. I'll be honest with everyone. It's too much to keep up with. That every month there's a new issue, and if you don't read, oh, you're reading this one, but if you didn't read this other title because there was a crossover, you'll never know what's going on, and it's too much. I was thinking about just recently about possibly following this Infinity storyline in Marvel. John Rambo is currently reading it, and he says it's really good. But I don't know. Do I really want to invest all that money? Because I'm sure it's probably like $20 for the first installment, $20 for the next installment. So I'll sink $200 into this thing just to read 400 different issues. I don't know anymore. I think I'm more relaxed. I think I've grown out of the comic book thing. A few things that are exceptions, like I said, I was reading The Walking Dead, and I probably will start reading that again eventually, because I kind of stopped reading it for a while. But comic books, they came and gone. They'll continue to go on, but it's funny how The Walking Dead as a comic book was popular, but as soon as it became a TV show, boom, insanely popular. That's what the mainstream kind of does to this stuff. And for me, at this point, I really don't have interest in going back to the comic books. It's just too much and too time-consuming for me at this point in my life. All right, so that is it for part 2 of Ask the King. Going to take another short break. And I'm going to come back with part 3. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to just skip right to part 3. If you're watching this on Twitch, please bear with me. I'll be gone for a few minutes for a commercial break to relax my voice, maybe get some more drink. We'll be back. We got, I believe, probably another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We still got over a dozen questions to answer. So I will be back in just a few short minutes with some more pertinent questions. So stick around, and I'll see you in a